Welcome back to the Peak Performance Podcast. As always, I'm Shane Kelly, and I'm joined here today with Coach Eric Saunders, girls golf coach at Red River High School in North Dakota. He is a two-time state champion, 40-time tournament champion, four-time state coach of the year, and recently a NFHS National Coach of the Year. How you doing today?
Great, Shane. Thanks for having me. Kind of fun to hear some of that stuff, but appreciate you having me.
It's the accolades build quickly, and it is cool to look through. So a big part of what I'm doing is I really want to learn about how different successful coaches have established their culture, kind of built up their own team values. Because the wins are one thing. Coaches win in a variety of ways. I'm more interested in the coaches that I view are winning the right way. And that's why throughout this whole process, I'm only interviewing the NFHS National Coaches of the Year. Because if I purely looked at records, there's no guarantee of how they're establishing these things. So I do really appreciate you taking the time to meet with me. And go ahead.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I love that you point that out. I think that's a really important part about coaching. I think there are a lot of ways to be successful, and I think that one of the things that we do in our program is pride ourselves on being successful and hopefully making kids feel that they're successful and positive when they leave. So I love that.
Yeah. So a big thing that I am curious about is specific coaching style. So, like, what made you want to get into coaching, and specifically why high school? And how do you think that affects the way you coach, the mannerisms you may use?
When first starting coaching, I had no idea what I wanted to do. Yeah, honestly, like I didn't know what I want to do for a few years of college, and the thing that actually put me into education was coaching, and I was coaching seventh and eighth grade basketball, and I was just like, man, this is so much fun. I mean, there's something to be said, and it's the same that goes for education. I'm an English teacher here at Red River High School in Grand Forks, North Dakota, but it really is the same thing there too. It's that when you see someone who wants to do something and achieve something, and you can help them achieve it. And I mean, there's like this gratitude that comes from them, and there's this positivity that you build together. And like when somebody knows that you're legitimately cheering for them and want the best for them, it's tough to top that kind of feeling. And so I think that's kind of where it started and why I wanted to get into coaching. Um, then as I was doing basketball for a good amount of years, I was playing. I love golf. I've always played golf. I was getting more, I just, played a lot of golf in the summer, that sort of thing. And there were, we only have two high schools in town. I'd done some lessons, things like that, but nothing really serious. And I started thinking like, what if I want to coach high school golf? Like that would be fun. Like that'd be great. And so it started, I jumped on with the one high school. I ended up coming back to the high school where I teach at now. And mostly what was so exciting was really those same things that people want to be their best, and people want to feel that they're contributing and valued, and I found that I was able to help people feel that and to be positive and to grow, and I think that's kind of how it all happened, I guess.
That's awesome. I do love the fact you brought up basketball because early on, um, you just hit on one of John Wooden's like core coaching points is the athletes have to know he put love at the center of his coaching pyramid. And in that term, it's more so care. It's athletes need to know you care about them. You're not doing it for you, you're doing it for them. And it's it can't be overstated the importance at the center of the coaching. So I love that you throw that in.
Yeah, I totally agree. And it's just really how I think we've centered so much of what our program's about. It it really does come from a place of caring about somebody to the point where uh, it is truly about them, and the coaching that way, it's fun. I mean, it really is, because the players and the people around know that it isn't done for I don't it's not for me. I know that. You know what I mean? It's definitely so that somebody can leave there and feel positive about how they what they did.
It's awesome. So golf is a very individual sport. So how do you create a team culture in a sport that is really based on individual performances?
It's kind of funny. We actually just had a situation in basketball, obviously a team sport, but I have one of my current. She was a state champ for us, is graduating senior, but she's on our basketball team too. And our head coach was talking about people playing selfishly, and he said, if you want to be selfish, you want to play on your own, you can go play golf, kind of thing. And she and I looked at each other and we're like, well, let's talk about that, because golf at the beginning, I did see how, okay, this is, everyone, it's kind of what everybody would say. Golf is easy. You go by the scores. It is what it is. The numbers dictate it. You're playing on your own. You can only do so much, all that stuff, right? It's kind of the typical golf coach. And I mean, my golf coach couldn't coach me in high school. He'd see me at the turn and say, give me a wave. They'd be playing golf. It just wasn't coaching, it was driving the bus.
Yeah.
Um, but I think about how what we really focus on is we talk about golf as a team sport, and the reason we call it a team sport is because yes, there is the individual tournament, but at the same time there's a team tournament, and we get to choose where we focus. And it really is important to be, in my mind, to focus on the team sport, because it is a whole lot easier to give up on yourself than it is to give up on the other five players that might need you. And so when all we do is talk about team, and all we do is focus on this is our group, this is who, early on in my career, I would see that our players would be walking by, and I was guilty of this as a high school player. You'd look over and you'd see somebody across the fairway, and the first thing, be like, how's it going over there? Big thumbs down, like tongue out. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like I know I did it. I know I'd see my players doing it early on, and I'm like, we're not doing this. Like, we cannot do, like, if it's a team sport, you're not going to tell your teammate how bad you're doing, and how, because so much of what they would talk about is like the last hole. Well, you could be one under par through your first seven and make two bogeys, and now you're mad because you made two bogeys, and then you get this big thumbs down. Well, how did you just affect your teammate? How's that going to go for the
Yeah.
team? How is that going to lead us into finishing this round positively and with as much strength as we can, when you're viewing it selfishly? And so that's kind of where that idea really started. And then it was really embraced as part of when we decided who we wanted to be. And we had this. It was my second year at Red River, which is where I am currently. And we sat down and we were like, okay, we're gonna have this meeting in the summer, and it was a Starbucks meeting. We sat down in Starbucks and we talked about, what do we want? What do we want this to look like? And the big thing that came out of that meeting that I'll never forget was to be a family. And a family is not about an individual. It's about supporting each other and doing it together. And so that's why I'll always argue that golf is, if done the right way and done the way that makes people play their best, is a team sport.
Love that. Is sorry. How would you describe your specific coaching style? Is it something, are you tough on your athletes? Are you just their supporting shoulder? How do you think they would describe you as a coach?
Yeah, so I know that for sure the first answer is positive. I mean, to the point where things happen, and we try to acknowledge them, but positivity is undoubtedly my first reaction, to the point where I know that they would be annoyed. And it's funny because who wants to hear Mr. Positive when whatever's happening? But we talk about positivity a lot, and positivity, there's really two different kinds. And the positivity of, like, oh, it's okay, you can still, it's like the toxic positivity or whatever you want to say, about how Like everything's good. Don't worry now. You'll get the next one. The cliche positivity, that's really not what we try to talk about. And so we've really worked hard to define what real positivity is. And real positivity is understanding that you have a choice to do something that is going to influence the next shot, the next hole, the next everything, right? And that's the real positivity that we try to focus on, because that's the kind that can change your day, change around,
Yeah.
change everything about it. So I know that that would for sure be one, is positivity. I I had asked a couple players just for fun because I wanted, like, what would you say? And that was the one that came up right away. And that I know, but I also think that I do my best to be centered on the player, and listen to the player, because if I just walked around and spouted all my positivity all the time, and not listen to them, like that's not going to work either. So to try to be as attentive and honest as possible, those are another couple words that I think matter. And I think player centered in the idea that I know that our players and our athletes and really every kid who goes out for a sport is trying to do their best. I mean, what kid goes out and puts in as much work as we put in and then shows up and isn't doing their best? If they're not, there's something going on that's the barrier, and seeking out what that barrier is, and treating that person as an individual. So I think that I'd consider myself player centered that way, because it figuring out what the human being sitting in front of me is all about. I think that part really matters too.
That also goes back to caring. If
Hmm.
you're athlete centered, your athletes are obviously going to know that you care about them because you're tailoring what they need for them. And positivity is such a big thing in golf. There are some guys I had to stop golfing with
Yeah.
because by hole three, their head's gone.
Yep.
And one, once your head's gone, your score's gone.
Exactly.
There's nothing you could do. And two, it brings down the morale of everybody around them, which ties into the team elements. So
Absolutely.
keeping that positivity, especially in a sport like golf, when yeah, you might be alone on a fairway, you have to stay positive. Otherwise, there's no, it's real hard to recover there.
Absolutely. Yep, that is the biggest thing. And I think it can be easy to say. And some of the things that we've done lately is really trying to work on some of the tools that we can give them to see themselves as the having agency and being able to do that on their own, and not just, well, I hope my coach shows up to remind me that I need to be positive. It's that moment of like, this is happening to me right now. I have the ability to go and change that. And I think that's a big part of that too.
And that's a lot of what my field is. I'm studying sport and performance psychology. So, yes, us having the ability to calm down an athlete, to get them in the right frame of mind is brilliant. But getting them to be able to do that for themselves is even more important. And it's teaching those
Absolutely.
skills, mindfulness, even breath work, just something calm to regulate everything that's going on and calm down your brain. Because no matter what the sport is, if you're thinking through each of the mechanics that you need to do, you're late. You can't be thinking. You just need to trust that you've put in the work and let your body handle it naturally and hope for the best.
Shane, I think you could be a golf coach. You got some, you're exactly right.
I've
That's
spent a
exactly
lot of
right.
time on a golf course.
Okay.
Unfortunately, I am not very good. I'm not very good. Um,
Well, you say the right things. That helps.
yeah, I can say what needs to be said, but if they
Yeah.
want any actual coaching, I
Yeah.
might need an assistant in there.
No, you don't have to do that. You could be the mindset coach. I like that. You're exactly right. And we do, I can talk even more. You're exactly right. That's part of what we do, monitoring who we are and how we feel at the moment. And then deciding what we do. And a lot of that has to do with breath work. Absolutely. Deciding how we can feel in that moment, and, feeling grounded, feeling centered, I mean, there's all kinds of different things. I don't know how much you dive into some of the books and things like that, but I kind of went on a
Too much.
binge. Yeah, so all right, we could probably talk books for a while too if we want to have a second episode. But there was it was not this summer, but the last summer, and I was like, we faced truly the biggest disappointment I've had in my coaching career. The state tournament, we were hosting it in our town at our course where all of our girls play, and it was like the writing on the wall was so clear. This is our tournament. We were the best team. Undoubtedly, we're going in this thing to win it. And when we lost, and we lost by a stroke, and it was like, oh my gosh, it was just awful. And so I look at that moment, I'm like, holy cow, like that moment was so hard on me, our girls, and everything. And so we had to spend a lot of time. I spent a lot of time thinking about that. I know they did, but then it was, I'm trying to figure out what we do because of it, you know? And so I kind of I went on a 12 book spree there from it was I think it was January to the time when the season ended. I 12 golf books, and I'm an English teacher, so I read a lot, but still, I've never read that many golf books. So I read 12 of them, and I took a few of them were really good in terms of breath and really feeling grounded. That Jane Story, I don't know if you've read any of hers.
I have not. I'm gonna
So
jot that down real quick.
yeah, she
Jane
does a really
Story.
good job. I know her last one. I think it's called The Athlete's Ascent. And then Breathe Golf, I believe, was her first one. But yeah, Storey. Uh, she she's really positive, like specific. What do you actually do to feel? Honestly, it feels like you're in a meditation session half the time. I do a lot of audiobooks too, so yep. So sometimes I feel like I'm meditating with her. But that was a
That's
big part.
awesome.
So.
That's awesome. Well, when I was doing a bit of research for this podcast, I came across your three key values: be brave, be positive, be a family. You've already spoken on the family element, but where did this come from? Is it something you curated, you stole from another coach? Like, where did this idea stem from?
So the be a family part, I talked about how that kind of came up in our in that conversation that the one player that was I think it was about to be a senior, and kind of funny how some of these moments that lead to success are ones kind of driven by players, and that was one. And so that was like she always it's the golf fam. That's who we are. We're the golf fam. And I'm like, I love that. So we can embrace that. And then our former athletic director, Mark Rarick, he was very into, and we would talk about core values, and we talk about changing those core values. And so I'd come across some, and we worked with some, and then we went to, of course, be positive, fit, and then we talked about that
Yeah.
too. And so I always wanted to be that and try to define what true positivity really was. And then we had looked at, I honestly I can't remember what the other one was, and it was like, we had this idea, and it was like I said, you know what? And I thought about what it means to be brave. And it was a teaching colleague of mine who was an instructional coach here in town. And it was her sorority. And it was they talked about being brave in the sorority. And I said, be brave. And I found I wrote something out about what it means to be brave and how like there's so much bravery that goes into golf. There's bravery to stand on the first tee. There's bravery to buy into what we're talking about. There's bravery to trust, like you said, that you're not going to be thinking about mechanics as you're trying to play golf, that you're going to trust that you put in the work and can do what you're doing. That takes bravery. It takes bravery to be playing with somebody else who is better than you and to show up and say, I'm going to play my best no matter what. It takes bravery to own that, to be yourself. Takes bravery to see somebody who is doing something on the golf course that is illegal and to say, "Hey, that's a penalty." I mean, there's things like that take everything. Golf is
Yeah.
full of bravery. Um, Takes bravery to walk up and be confident when you have a 3 foot putt. I mean, there's so much about it, and so we're sitting having this conversation, and they go, "Yeah, bravery." Let's do that one. And that one kind of stuck. And so then that's kind of what we've really embraced. And then as you can tell, probably, we've worked really hard to define what those three things are, and really made that what we center everything around. And then it makes me think about that kind of go together. When I think about what really matters for us and when to put the ultimate team game is it takes bravery not to look at the scoreboard. It takes
Yeah.
bravery to know that you're going to do your best, and that is the only thing that you can do. That's a huge one for us. Um, I think about that one. That I would say that is in the 2024 state championship. I told you when I said about the 2023 uh, one stroke defeat that there was a lot of reflecting, right? And I remember thinking, look at that scoreboard and okay, if we just and like just make part. I remember maybe it's just the windiest day I've ever been in on not quite but close. It was so windy, it was cold, and I'm thinking, just we just got to make parts, like you're fine. And I'm talking about score, and I look back at that moment. I'm like, like we cannot talk about score right now. That cannot be the focus. If it was that easy, everybody would shoot what they want to shoot. And it takes, so then uh, our number one player, who ended up as a state champion in 2024, had this great story. It's in the East Region Championship. We have two regions here in North Dakota, East and West, and we're in the East Region Championship, and we're on the ninth hole, and she's got the one of the better players up in front of her. Hadn't played great to start, and had kind of uh, had a pretty good bounce back here. And she hammers this drive on the tight driving hole with water in front, hammers it over the water. It's down the left side because it's a big overhanging tree on the right. And I walk up to her, and first question she says was, "How'd that girl in front of me do?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm like, I don't know. Like, let's just, kind of focus here." And so, but in my head, I'm like, "Oh God, that wasn't what I want to talk about." Like we got to focus on this. It doesn't really matter. We have 9 holes to go. Well, so she's like, "Oh, because I think if she parred, kind of that thing." So she gets up, and I mean, I'm telling you, you could not ask for a better spot. She chunks it into the bunker, makes a double. And it's like, oh my gosh. I look at that moment and I'm like, that is. And so, but things like that don't happen. People, it makes it hard to buy into some of this. So when we talk about being brave, then for the entire next week, part of it was it's going to take us being brave. That team had beat us every meet the entire year. And so we're chasing these guys. And,
Yeah.
and, and so to talk about bravery was to say it doesn't matter what they're going to do. We have to be so focused on us that we don't care what happens. And so we go into the state tournament, and I talked to her about this exact situation. She's like, "I see what you mean. Like that actually makes sense. That is the result of me trying harder when you can't try harder. Golf, you can't try harder. It doesn't do you any good. Try as hard as you can." And so we go to the back nine. Honestly, she ended up tying and ended up in a playoff. So like that hole didn't matter, right? But we go to the state tournament, and the digital scoreboard actually kind of goes out for a little while. And so it made it really easy to not focus on the scores. But all of the girls bought in. And I'm telling this girl who she won the tournament, won the state championship. Same girl who just had asked what that girl was on the ninth hole. She goes and wins the state tournament. She finishes on the 18th hole and turns around. She goes, "Did I win?" She didn't even know, because she was so locked in and so bought into this idea that I'm going to be so brave that we are going to take care of what I'm going to take care of. She had no idea. She won by 6 or 7.
Oh,
Yeah,
wasn't
it
even
was great.
close.
Yeah.
That just speaks on focusing on the controllables. Um, in my field, we talk a lot about that there's 3 different types of goals, and some are far more positive than others. There's outcome goals, which for her, that would be winning the state title.
Mm-hmm.
There's performance goals, which would be I want to shoot 3 under par today.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's process goals, which is by far the most important of the 3. And that's just I'm going to show up and do my best every single day. So whether that's practice in that tournament, I'm going to hit the next shot is going to be the best I could do. And then after that, okay, it was a horrible shot. Okay, this next one's going to be the best one I could do. And it's focusing on that small process, and it yields the best results by a mile because it's all stuff you can control. You can
Mm-hmm.
control your effort. You can control your focus. You can control what you can do, showing up, putting in the energy. You can't control. She could have put that same score and finished 5th in the state
Mm-hmm.
tournament.
Yeah.
And then she hit all of her process goals. But if she was only focused on the outcome, it's a failure, which isn't right.
Absolutely.
I love that you're pushing, just focus on the process. Focus on what you can control each and every time you're on the golf course, on the tee box, on the fairway. It's perfect.
Yeah, I one of my favorite quotes, or I don't know if it's a quote. I say it all the time. It's my quote. Maybe it's my quote. I have no idea. But I tell them all the time, you're right where you're supposed to be. We talk about
Yeah,
this for when we talk that, and that takes bravery too, but we talk about it at the beginning of the year, we talk about at the end of the year, we talk about it all the time. And if setting that outcome goal or performance goal really is wishing to be something that you aren't where you are. Like you're hoping that maybe you could, instead of just saying, I'm right where I'm supposed to be and I'm comfortable. And the trust in that to say that good things will happen to me because I trust that I'm right where it's supposed to be. Like you're going to be better because of it. And it's so difficult. And I think about like, I mean, I'm asking 14-year-old kids, 15, 16, to wrap their mind around that. It's hard. But they do see that it works, because it it truly is worth it when you don't have to, like, you can set a performance goal or an outcome goal and like you will reach that goal. Like you don't even know how good you can be sometimes.
yeah,
You might be better than that if you would have done it the
that's
process way.
true. That is 100% true. If you're only focused on the outcome, she could have also played way under her standard and won.
Hmm.
The process is the only true way to assess, am I doing my best? And
Absolutely.
that's everything.
Yep, I
Um,
agree.
the coach I talked to yesterday, Ernie Brooks, he's a track coach out in Oregon. He was talking about this distance runner he has, who freshman year, sophomore year, junior year really struggled. He was kind of quirky kid, hadn't quite grown into his body. Um, but he just showed up every day and put in his best. And he ended up winning a varsity letter his senior year.
Yeah,
And that doesn't happen if you're only focused on your performance or the outcome. That kid's only focused on the process. And I think he's running in college now
of course he is. I mean, that
because
like
he's
that makes
focused
total
on the
sense, right?
process. Yeah.
Exactly. You don't,
Those
you
are the
know
people
that
that reach the
ex
top.
exactly. And they're the kids who are going to keep putting in the effort because they know that leads to improvement. And it's not about I can make this time or I can shoot the score. I mean, it's that this is what it really matters, that I am a better version of myself.
It's just improving that 1% every day. It's, I'm
Absolutely.
going to get a little bit better. I still might be the worst on the team today, tomorrow, a month from now, 6 months from now. But 2, 3 years from now, I might be number one. And that only happens if you're focused on what you can control. So teaching that to your athletes, especially at a high school age when they're preparing for their adult lives, I don't think there's anything more important you can teach them.
Yeah, I completely agree. I love it. Right. Yep. And you know what? That's really funny. I have golfers that show up in my AP literature class and they'll be like, "Oh, this is really hard." And I'll tell my class, I'm like, "Look, I got to tell you this. You're right where you're supposed to be." And they look at me and they're like, "You're doing this here too?" I'm like, "It's the truth. It's the truth.
It
If you
it
if you
applies
can
everywhere.
if you can understand that you're right where you're supposed to be, and then you acknowledge where you're supposed to be and what are the steps forward, good things are going to happen." So, absolutely.
100%. Well, what advice would you give to an inexperienced coach to help them improve their own kind of team culture and enable them to find success at whatever level they might be at?
I think a lot of times when you say young coach, it really makes me think about how often young coaches and we as people think about ourselves and take ourselves kind of seriously. And in reality, the biggest thing I've kind of said it before a little bit too, but it's that these kids are doing the best they can and they want to succeed. And it is not about you as a coach. I mean, it's just not. And if when we make it about us as a coach, that's when things don't go well. I think about, I mean, I've watched coaches, players upset about something on the course and takes it out on the coach or says something to the coach and all of a sudden they're arguing. It's like, well, there goes that day. Like that day's over. Like everyone's
Yeah.
high strung. These tournaments matter to people. And I think that I would say that's the biggest thing is that we have to put our kids in a situation where they know that we believe in them so much that they trust us to respond for them. And when that's the case, and it's not about me as a coach, it's not about the young coach, it's not about whoever that is. I think that would be the biggest thing for me.
Well, going back to the book talk, a couple months ago, I read a book by John Maxwell. He's one of the top like leadership coaches. He teaches people how to lead. Um,
Okay.
his book's called The 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership.
Okay.
And this is a guy that has repaired governments through this, CEOs. He is the number one leadership guy, arguably in the world. And trust was his number one most important quality of leadership.
I like
This is a
it.
guy that's been doing it for 50 years. And his whole, to summarize the book, you cannot you cannot lead anybody if they do not trust you and you do not trust them. Trust
Yeah,
is at the core of everything, and that has to be true for coaches.
absolutely. I'll pull it up. It's in my Amazon here. I'll make sure I get that one next. I'll put it on my list.
It's good. It's pretty good.
I know you kind of talked about some stories. I think about a kid once I had. She was at this point one of our middle golfers on a really good team. She was about to be our number one golfer. We're playing, and well, there's water. She's got a 3-wood in her hand. There's water up left, and there's this tight little area to get to the green, sand trap right, and she's got 3-wood. I'm like, this is not good, right? And I walk up and I'm like, hey, like we can't hit this here. Like this is you got that water, and she's like, what do you mean? I'm like, well, like this is gonna go. This is how far does that go? Well, like 225. I'm like, okay, that water is at 225. Like that's going in the water if we hit. But I think I can hit it right there. And I'm like, we can't hit this club right now, right? And so I'm telling her, and so she fine. So she grabs 5-iron, swings 5-iron, and I'm telling you, like she's coming down, and the second that ball was struck by the club, she turns and her head pops up and she goes, "I told you so." And immediately it was my fault, right? And it was that trust that I was telling her what to do. And I cannot be the person telling somebody what to do on the golf course because and this is how this is life, this is everything. When you tell somebody what to do, it is my idea and it is not their idea. And we have to
Yeah.
build a trusting situation where I ask some questions and help them understand what their idea is that we can get on the same page from. And you know what? If 100% she knows that it's 3-wood, all right, then we're hitting 3-wood. But I have to trust her. She's got to trust me, and it has to be kind of that back and forth because if it's somebody else's idea, that blame immediately goes to the other person.
And what's funny about that situation is there's a scenario where you were right and 5-iron was the right club,
Yeah,
but she wasn't convinced it was. So in turn, it was the wrong club.
exactly. Yeah, it's exactly
A
it.
little bit of
Yep,
backwards psychology there because she had faith in the 3-wood, not the 5-iron. So she's
exactly.
already skeptical going into the shot, which just doesn't go well, especially in
Yep.
golf, that
Yes.
you have to be perfect, otherwise things go wrong really quickly.
Yeah. Doubt is not your friend.
No. And that's honestly relates to a lot of the struggles I've been having at the golf course and why I haven't been golfing more.
Doubt.
I need to listen to my own advice, and I just
Yep.
don't.
Exactly.
It's easier
Yep.
to coach it than it is to listen to it, I guess.
No doubt. There's no doubt about that.
Well, I don't want to take up too much of your time. I have really enjoyed this conversation, so thank you again for taking the time. Do
Absolutely.
you have
Thank you.
any parting stories, anything that we have not touched on that you think would contribute?
Oh, boy.
we've already touched on a lot, so don't worry if you can't think of anything.
I did think of one other thing that that I kind of thought about before and coming in this. I think that, and it makes me think about co the kid, new coaches and kind of advice and that sort of thing. But I
Mhm.
think about so much of what like every like we're making choices constantly, and really like when you talk a lot about culture, like we really are defined by the choices we make, right? And I mean, I think about how many times I've made wrong choices. I mean, I highlighted a couple of them already, right? I think about like I'm talking about scores sometimes. I'm talking about this, and I think that I had a player. She was junior my first year. No, yeah, she was a junior my first year, graduated the next year. And a lot of times she'd give me these looks like, we're really doing this? Like, what in the world are we trying to do? We do a lot of, I mean, I try to make drills fun. I try to make practice fun. I try to do things that are competitive and do all kinds of somewhat unique things. And she leaves there and she goes, keep doing what you're doing because it shows you care. It shows that you're trying to do something
Yeah.
good for all of us. And I think about that and like the choice. I mean, I've made wrong choices, like I said, we've made all kinds of choices, but our culture really is defined by those choices and how we learn from them. I mean, and so to know that there is no such thing as a perfect coach by any means, and know that if you're that new coach and working towards something, that you're going to mess up, and it's not a reflection on you being a bad coach. It's a reflection of you never been in that situation before. And I think that the more it really goes to the idea that you're right where you're supposed to be too as a coach, because I mean we won a state championship in 2017. It was my third year at Red River, and I look back at that. I'm like, okay, wow, thanks, girls. I don't. I there was you guys did all that. Like that wasn't me. I had nothing to do with that. I mean, I think I'm a far better coach than I was then, and I'm sure I'll be a better coach in 10 years too. But I think that knowing that and knowing that we just continue to grow because we can reflect on those choices and truly define what that culture is. And I think Shane, you pointed out so often enough that when you center it around that love, that care, and really believing in athletes, that just makes it all that more rewarding. So I think
I
that's
think
just
that's
what's important.
I think that's a perfect way to end it. That summarized our entire conversation beautifully. Well, thank you again for taking the time. I really do appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, Shane. I appreciate it.
And good luck next season.
All
Hopefully the
right.
weather clears up in North Dakota pretty soon.
Yeah, yeah, we're hoping. We're hoping. Thanks,
All
Shane.
right. Have a good one.
You too.